Okay, Daryl's here. We want to let him in.
Yeah, better.
And we all know Yolanda did her homework already.
Gosh, that's recording.
I've got to recheck mine. I'm definitely one of them.
Okay, so Daryl's here. Hi, Daryl.
He's incognito.
Yeah.
He's probably eating ice cream.
Well, that's 9 o'clock.
Well, he's getting in early.
Yes.
Or late. Is it not? Is
All
it
right,
9
so
o'clock in the evening?
Yes,
Yep.
9 p.m. where he's got almost 5 hours to wait.
Okay, so today's session is supposed to be about how to hook up equipment for
Daryl.
calling. Hi, Daryl.
Hi. Sorry, I had to get plugged in.
Oh, we thought you were eating ice cream.
That comes later. Actually, I'm going to bake a blackberry pie.
Oh, you sure make us hungry.
With apple as well? Do you put
Say
apple
what?
in the blackberries?
The blackberries are ripe here right now, and they are so good.
Do you add apple to it, or you just have blackberries on their own?
Just blackberries.
Okay, because they are nice with apple as well.
The apples will get in the way of the ice cream.
You stew the apples as well. Stewed apples and blackberries.
Carry on, gang. What were you talking about?
I'm trying to get back to my Zoom window. There we go. Okay, so today's topic is supposed to be about how to hook up your equipment for square dance calling. Because apparently there's been some posts here recently, people having problems hooking up equipment. So it was requested that we make some kind of video about how to hook up your square dance equipment. And I don't have any Hilton equipment, so I can't, and really no knowledge other than I've plugged into an MA220 before. Another caller told me where to plug my mic in and how to turn the volume up for the music. That's all I know. I do have a simple setup that I use for my teaching my classes. See if I switch my screen here and switch this to speaker view. I don't know if this will, no, it's not switching on my speaker view for me. Gallery.
Daryl, you're muted.
Okay, so let's see. Now to switch over to my other screen. Nope, wrong one.
I would still suggest, is there anybody that has questions about how to set it up that's here now? Okay.
Oh, well, that ain't gonna work. I guess my webcam just went dead.
Love this equipment.
Yep. My webcam phone just died on me.
In a nutshell, with the Hilton, you plug the speaker cord in where it says speaker. You plug your microphone in where it says mic, and you got a switch to turn it on and off. That's how you hook up your equipment for a square dance with Hilton stuff. Now, with somebody else's mixer board and all of that stuff, I have no idea and don't want to learn either. So I've said my piece, I'll shut up.
And for my simple setup, let me see if I can find that picture. At least maybe I can show the picture. There it is. Okay, so now I'll go back to my Zoom window. Share screen. It's a little portable speaker. You have a mic cord that plugs in. to the line 1, and then an auxiliary cable running from your laptop to line 3. And control the master volume right down below the right below the auxiliary cable, and you can adjust the volume, bass, and treble on all 3 channels. And that's the simple hookup. You can get more complicated. I've got my DJ equipment that I use, a couple EV 1,000-watt column arrays. I can get a total between the both of them. I can get 10 mics hooked up to it, and can run. And then it's uses a connection to my tablet, and then I can control the mixer for each channel. And gets really complicated. You can go really complicated or really simple.
Mhm.
And I know I've heard that the Hilton equipment, you can get pretty complicated with them too, with when you're doing, what do they call it, slaving them at the, like they do it at the festivals. They set up slaving them and delays and all kinds of stuff on them. But just for a dance, they're supposed to be really simple and easy to use. Now, does anybody know about how far back you can go in Hilton and just be able to, like Daryl said, just plug in your speakers, plug in your mic, and go? Because I know there was some that they were saying that you have to have like a Y cable and not doing something with 4 ohms and stuff like that.
The Series Y, if you're going to plug 2 speakers into one of the speaker inputs, you're going to need a Series Y. But to put 1 speaker in each of the 2 inputs, no problem, not needed. There was a time, if you were setting up a series of, I shouldn't say a series, a number of speakers, you might be concerned with paralleling them. But the average person, the average caller out there, and most likely the ones that might have had any questions at all about hooking up equipment, they're probably not going to be doing that anyway. The paralleling has to do with sound bouncing against each other. You've got speakers in the back of the hall facing speakers in the front of the hall. That can be a problem. But as far as just setting up a couple of speakers, which will cover now, depending on the speakers you have, I still use the yak stacks. To me, they're simple, easy to carry, all of that fun stuff. I cover, usually if I've got 10, 12 squares in a hall that would fit 10 or 12 squares on the floor, I'll use a half a yak. That's enough. Typically, most callers oversound their hall anyway. So it's simple, and there's not a whole lot to it anyway, unless you're going to get into festival sound like Mark said. Then it's something else. Did I say I was going to shut up? No, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm getting ready to ask you another question here. You got an MA220?
I do not.
You do not. Do you know anything about them?
Nope.
Or does anybody here know anything about them?
Don't know a thing about it, but I'm not afraid of it, because if I had one, I'd plug the microphone in where it says mic, I'd plug the speakers in where it says speakers, and I'd find the on-off switch, and the rest of the knobs for EQing and volume, I can figure that out. It can't be that difficult. What can they do? It says 220 amp instead of 150, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
What other difference would there be?
So the question I remember seeing on Facebook was somebody had hooked up Let me see if I can find that.
Understand, I don't know anything about a 220. I don't own one. I've got two 150s, and let's see, I've got two 75 turntables. I've got one 300 turntable. I have 5 yak stacks, 5 full yak stacks. I've got cords with enough wire in them to go around the city of Portland twice. Yes. I tell you what, I mean, and I've collected so much junk through the years, and none of it does anything that the others wouldn't do. Now, if you're talking about how to plug your laptop into an MA150, yeah, use one of the auxiliary inputs, come out on your laptop into there. Then, it's just not that big a deal. Yeah. Now, is that a 220? It looks just like a 150.
Basically, it's exactly the same as the 150, except you've got a couple of ports on your left-hand side for your sound in and out.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so the post that I seen, I'm guessing it's the aux, one of them auxes where you're supposed to put the music in.
Either one.
Yep.
Either one. Now, those are auxiliary inputs. Either one of them will take it. One of them on the far left end, if you're running sound enhancement with the voice only or music only, you're going to have to plug in down there and put that into the sound enhancement. The auxiliaries, they're both inputs. What the RCA plug is in between them is, I'm not sure. I don't know what that is. The right alongside to the left of the number one mic input, that's your volume control, that you have your extra cord on your microphone plug in there. I'm sorry, I had a second one of those put in mine, so if I've got two of us up there, we both have control of volume.
That's what I was wondering about. That can only can only one person control the music with their mic?
Yes, but you can get a splitter cord and have them both plugged in. Naturally, one has to be all the way down for the other one to work. But that's the case also. Like I say, I eliminated the splitter cord and had another input, or that's whatever, the volume control slot there. I had a second one of those put in, so I don't have to plug in a splitter of any kind.
Well, I think
use
from
one.
that post, I think they had the mic plugged in the right spot, but they had the remote for the music plugged into the aux, and they had the music plugged into the remote.
I've done that before. Never put the music in the remote, but I've got the remote into one of the. Hey, I'm old. I don't always pay close attention. Not that I don't know better. I probably just got in a hurry and didn't do better. But no, they're MA150, MA220. To me, just looking at it, I couldn't tell a whole lot of difference in them.
Do you know what those little blue knobs are for?
They're for balancing.
Balancing and increase your volume input coming in.
Okay.
I see the on that RCA plug between the two auxiliary inputs, that says mute. So if you have one of the old buttons that would lift the tone arm on a turntable, I would imagine that you plug the wire from that in there, and you can mute it by using that button on your microphone. That would be my guess anyway.
Yep. I'd say that'd be about right, Daryl. Yeah.
And those two RCAs on the far left, I used to record microphone and music out of those two, and the volume control or impedance control of those two blue knobs on the left hand side. So sometimes you can get.
So it'll record voice out and music out on separate channels.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah.
So you would have a
And
vocal
those two-
track basically.
Yeah.
On the MA150, where those two blue knobs on the far left end, there's a toggle switch there to switch from voice to music and back again.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Makes you want to run right out and buy one of those 220s, doesn't it? There you go.
If you've got a couple of
There you
grand in
go.
Australia.
That's the 150.
I would love to have one. I just can't afford it. And I was on the Hilton website earlier today and it just says sold out of everything.
I don't know. I just had one of the callers downstate from me day before yesterday say that he had an MA150 that he wanted to sell. Now I sent his email out to all of my new callers, couple of which are on here. I didn't send them to you guys, but the ones that are in the Oregon State, or did you get it? Did you get that email, Rose? Okay. I'm pretty sure it's gone by now anyway.
Yeah, from what I've seen over the years, they disappear real quick.
Yeah. They're good units. They're very much trouble free. I smoked one of them once. I don't know how. That's been a good many years ago. But
You were old back then, right?
Pardon?
That you were old back then, right?
Yeah, back then I was old. Now I'm young. Is that your implying? Lord, I wish that was true. No, I tell you, I smoked a turntable once too.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun one. I was down in where was it? Down in Northridge, California, northern part of Los Angeles there, doing one of their district dances. Flew in, and the gal that we called the Queen Bee of Los Angeles, the one that booked all the callers in and out all the time, I would stay with her when I went down there, and we'd use her equipment, her turntable and speakers if we needed them and everything. But we drove up there, and I was up there getting it all set up, and I plug in the speaker and no sound. I leaned over that turntable, wiggling the cord in the back, trying to get sound on, and the dangle from my bolo went down in that spot where you set the speed, hit that motherboard, and I mean, it went, that was it. It smoked it. And luckily, the Round Dance Cure had his set up there, so I just used that night. Very nice of him to let me do that. But for the next year, any caller that went and stayed with Marie, she told him, Daryl smoked my set. And I did. I paid for it, but yeah, hey, things happen.
yeah, we had one.
Sorry.
Old Keith Lethbridge came over, and he only uses records, and so I pulled out the AC300, and of course it wasn't one of these new ones. It was one of those 110 volts, and you used to have to put a transformer in between it.
Ooh.
And anyway, somebody hooked it up direct. And 240 going into 110, it gets a funny smell real quick.
Yeah.
But having said that, I took it down to, we've got a place that works on them here. And the old AC300s, remember, you've got your extra output, and you've got your normal. And all it did was cook one board, and they just swapped the boards around. The boards are the same. They swapped the board around, and so I've only got one channel. I don't have the extra output, but I'll get that off the bull here one day and get it repaired, and I'll stick it back in. But other than that, she works like a charmer. And I've got an old AC300 that I've had, good Lord, I think I got that in about 1976, 1977. And boy, it's been around the world, and it still runs like a charmer. You can't hardly kill them.
Yeah, I've got an AC 300, and I was using it with just one speaker in a smaller room, and somebody decided, oh, we'll show you how to add an extra one speaker, and it blew the board. But the other one kept going, but my house was blue. We finally got somebody to fix it. Took a while to find somebody that knew how to work on them, but it's
Dick
fine now.
Bull.
Yeah.
Get a hold of Dick Bull. He still does repairs on Hiltons and stuff like that. And I mean, he's been around forever and a day. Well, ever since Old Man Hilton had the place, you know, and he will fix things for you.
Well, we actually found somebody that was doing it here in town that sort of just played with them in his basement. So, and he fixed it. So
Yeah.
because
I
the
know all the old
transportation costs
Hiltons
could
were all
be
pretty
quite
much
much.
military grade components, huh?
So now with Hilton's, can you hook up a phone or a tablet and to the music in and play music from
Yeah.
your phone or tablet through them too?
Yep. Just go straight from your tablet or your phone into one of the auxiliary ins.
Yeah, I've got my my music laptop um attached to my turn input.
And
So
what?
my
And I remember hearing something about some of them that you had to use some kind of booster or something. I think a line booster or something because to amplify the sound going into it or something.
That was with mini disc. The mini discs were very popular for a while, and their output is very weak. So you need a preamp to go into the Hilton. Otherwise, you get no volume.
Oh, okay, but our stuff now, like your phones and tablets, you don't need one of those.
Once again, if it is a little bit low, you're talking about those blue buttons down here. Okay, one is balance and the other one is to adjust your impedance. So you can adjust your sound up and build up the input coming in. So
Okay.
that will help if you are low, just by adjusting these little knobs here. I mean, I've set those knobs up donkey's years, and only probably twice in the last 10 years have I ever had to adjust anything on those.
Okay, and another way of hooking up, I think, John, you said you do it. What you play your music via Bluetooth to your setup?
Yeah, this machine that's behind me, it has a Bluetooth input. So I'm actually listening to that from a second computer, and it's linked into the Bluetooth from there. So I've got on this particular machine here, it's got six inputs for mic or whatever, and plus the Bluetooth plus a line in. And I couldn't afford to buy the Hiltons back then, and I'd picked this up at Cash Converters for about $300, and it was brand new. They must have bought them out of a closing down sale or something, and it came with 2 years warranty. Never had any problem with it, except that it's a little bit bassy. So you just got to turn the treble up and the bass off and, for square dancing.
Now, how about, is there any kind of what do you call it, lag going over the
No.
Bluetooth, or is everything sync fine, your
Well-
voice and the music?
Well, basically, you call to the music that's coming out of the speakers. So if there's a
Okay.
lag, it doesn't matter because you don't hear the original sound. You hear it only when it comes out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also John uses a little receiver, a Bluetooth receiver, and with the Hilton, you just plug that into one of your auxiliaries. There you go. Just
Like Roz
plug
has?
that into one of your auxiliaries, and then you just sync that with your computer, and so you're a wireless hookup.
Okay.
Very
I
handy
haven't-
when, go on, Ross.
I said I haven't tried it yet because I've bought the spare one off John, so I've got to tune it into my computer and give it a go.
Miss Sacco, how about you? What do you guys use out there?
My case is very different from you experienced callers, I'm afraid. Um, Last year, lots of things happened, you know, the pandemics, anything could happen. And I belonged to this, not a big but medium-sized club, but something happened. And then now I am independent with 8 dancers. Until last year, I helped the club owner to hook up the MA 220. He had MA 220 and the 2 yak stacks, and I helped him with carrying things around, not mechanically, but I still am a caller in training, of course. And then now I don't have anything. I have one tiny the speaker for karaoke, you know, and my iPhone and this headphone microphone. So right now I'm thinking, what should I get next? The karaoke speaker is a Bluetooth connection, but not always stable. The connection is stable. Like last week, the music all of a sudden stopped, and I didn't know what to do. So what to get next is my big question. I don't think I can afford MA 220, considering the exchange rate. It's crazy, going crazy. But thank you for asking. I'm good at listening. I'm collecting information. Thank you.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes, please.
What you want is something that you can plug your laptop into and your microphone into and a speaker into and act as a public address system. In other words, it'll carry your voice and the music. There's probably 1,000 micro 75 turntables out there someplace. And that is a public address system. That'll do everything that you want it to do and cost you a lot less money. You don't have to use a turntable. It's still an amplifier and it still has inputs and outputs. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of used ones out there and they're available. And they're going to be very inexpensive compared to almost anything else you're going to get. I'm sure that there probably aren't that many in Japan. But if you don't mind paying the shipping cost to get it from the States over there, that would probably be your least expensive way of getting something that'll do what you want it to.
Oh, I didn't know that. That sounds very nice and never thought about such.
That's what I would do if it were myself.
Yeah, there is on Facebook. There is a Square Dance equipment for sale group. If you keep an eye on that, you'll quite often see stuff coming up. But it goes pretty quick. Like Daryl said, people go for that very quickly because it is inexpensive. So you need to keep an eye on it all the time.
And the Micro 75 is a smaller unit. So it's easy to carry and it'll cover probably any venue, any dance hall that you're probably going to be working. Lots of sound, plenty of power to do what you want it to do.
I read somewhere
Our little one.
about I read somewhere about the Hilton equipment that the number that the Hilton gives you is the number of people that you can cover with that particular device. So like a micro
Oh, okay.
75 can cover up to about 75 people. The 300 will take up to 300 people, the 500 people, and so forth. It's not a power output level. It's the number of people that you can dance with using that particular piece of equipment.
I
That's
don't
what I
believe
heard
that.
down.
I don't believe that, John. Everything depends on the room that you're in.
Yeah.
I've covered 200 squares with an MA150 and 2 yak stacks. So, you know, it depends on the hall and everything else. How low's the ceiling, you know. But micro 75 for the average caller that's going to call anywhere from 1 to 10, 15, 20 squares, micro 75 is going to do that quite nicely. Shouldn't need anything more than that, and it'll actually cover a lot more than that.
Our little one, we have about 75, 80 people to our birthday, and it does it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you see, not sure if you were here in the beginning when I got here or when we started. I'm gonna share a picture because my camera's down, my webcam died. But here's the picture. That's just a little custom PA50. It's a little powered speaker. It has you can plug in 2 microphones on the first 2 channels, and the third channel is where you plug in your laptop, your phone, your tablet. And I have another one of them that I let a new caller use, and he uses it at his class, and he's got 3 to 4 squares all the time, and he says it works fine for it. Now, you said you only have 8 people right now. That's why I was bringing this one up, but I wouldn't want to try this on anything more than that. Like Daryl said, it depends on the hall you're trying to dance in. But this little speaker here, I think, was about $200 for that. And then all you need is a mic and a mic cord and an auxiliary cable and a laptop or phone, whatever you want to play your music from. And that'll do 3 or 4 squares. No problem. When I first started, I used that for my club, which only had 2 squares at the time. And I went with that because I work for a school and I can't afford a Hilton.
Yep.
And as much as I call now, I'm actually really glad I didn't buy a Hilton back when I first started, because I don't call enough other than teaching classes to make that money back. But there are other options out there. Here comes Ed. There are other options. A powered speaker, and that one there is 200. You could probably find one a little cheaper than that. If the MA, or not the MA,
Micro.
there you go, micro. The micro. If you can't find a micro, but a little powered speaker. I think that one's 100 watt. I don't know. I bought it about 7-8 years ago. But it's only like 100 watts. It's not a big powerful speaker, but it'll do 3 or 4 squares, no problem.
I for a long time I had a half rack amplifier. It was actually a professional amplifier that I bought for about $300. You can pick them up, small amplifiers. You can pick them up reasonably cheap, and it was only 50 watts a channel, and I had no trouble running 5 squares with that. And that was through 2 little Bose speakers.
Yeah.
Yes, we were. It says she has a micro 75C and a 75.
Does she have a price on them?
They're not for sale.
Oh, okay.
Hello,
She
Ed.
just, she just
Hi,
came
Roz.
in and heard you talking about them, Daryl.
Ah. Well, there are a lot of them out there, and I'm sure that there
Yes.
are still some available. And for a starter set, that should work out quite nicely. It'll do anything that you want it to do, and then some. And you don't have to use a turntable. But there's a lot of, probably a couple of hundred used records floating around out there too. So you have the opportunity to use some records if you get some. That it's kind of a win-win situation.
Yep.
If you don't have any records, tell me and I'll send some to you.
Beauty of the Micro 75 is that it's a small PA system and it's easy, light to carry around.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But
Yes.
then again, you can pick up a powered speaker from a second-hand shop, and you probably pick it up, a 100 or 200 watt powered speaker. You pick them up for around about $200 or $300 at most second-hand shops. They might even be new. That's like this mixer that I bought. It was brand new from a second-hand shop. Came with warranty and everything. That only cost me $280 or $300, something like that. And
John,
and
is
those speakers,
sorry,
the
John,
speakers
is the
you can
power
see behind me. Hey,
is the power speaker a passive speaker? Because someone said get a passive speaker.
No,
the speakers
Passive.
behind me are passive. You hook straight into the speaker itself. Whereas a powered speaker, you actually plug power into it and it actually has the amplifier built into the speaker. So you don't need to carry anything extra. If you've got a powered speaker, all you need is your computer, a microphone, the microphone lead, and the lead from the computer to the speaker, and that's all you need. And
Right.
most of them have volume control. A lot of them don't have a tone control, but they have a volume control, and they work quite well for a small group, 1 or 2 squares.
So a passive speaker, you've got to have the amp. Is that right?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I think they also call powered speakers active.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some difference also if you want to use a powered speaker rather than a yak or separate other, if you're going to do Zoom calling. Is that right? Anybody know?
The way Mark, if you have a look at Mark's video from the show that he put on a couple of weeks ago, he bought a mixer that you use with the powered speaker to use for calling on Zoom.
Audio interface.
It's well, that's what I mean. It's a
You
mixer.
can do it with either, but I had the audio interface. Brian's the one that uses the mixer. Those mixers are too complicated for me. There's too many knobs and sliders and buttons and everything on them.
A lot of the callers on Zoom use Focusrite.
That's an audio interface. It's the same. That's a better version of the one that I have.
Okay.
The trick in getting it to work is all the routing, how you route your signal through it and everything. And
there was one question I had for you, Mark, and that was the USB out on the back of your little device from the back of your interface to the computer. Was that just to power the interface? Was it?
Yeah, it powers it, but the audio also runs back and forth between it too. So while I was on Zoom, I could have had some, what do they call it, DAW software or like Audacity or something. I could have had that running in the background recording myself too. and had it split as a vocal track and an instrumental. Those audio interfaces, you can do a lot with them. For such a little box, you can actually do a lot with them.
I'm not so sure. Excuse me. I'm not so sure you can do multi-track recording with Audacity.
Well, something like another Audacity is kind of like the.
You can do stereo, but I don't think you can do multi-track, meaning you can't go voice on this track, music on this track.
There are people that are doing it.
Pardon?
There are people that are doing it
How so?
With Audacity?
with Audacity. Yeah.
Oh,
I've done it with Audacity.
cool. You'll have to teach me how to do that.
Me too.
I actually use Adobe myself, but because it's actually, you've got about 12 tracks you can use on Adobe, but Audacity does have the 2-track.
I know it's got 2 tracks, but I didn't think you could record separate on them. It's like stereo.
You can record left and right channel.
Cool. I'll check that out. I pay a lot of money for multi-track recording programs. Of course, I'm unlimited number of tracks I can lay down too, so that makes a difference.
Oh, let's
There's
see.
that little Focusrite.
Yours is prettier than mine.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
just a little one. You can get ones with more controls and everything.
Is that what you're
David-
using? Yeah. Instead of a Hilton amp?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I've got to get it plugged in right and make sure I'm working it right. But Dave Eno, he uses it all the time. He's got a bigger one. And I didn't think they were that expensive. I think I paid about 150 for this one. I'm not sure. I can't remember now.
You
But
cannot.
they have more inputs.
You cannot use that instead of a Hilton amp. No,
This is on Zoom.
this is a signal separator and everything, and you have some control over it. But no, it does not take place of an amplifier.
No, not for calling.
No, not for calling. This is just
but
on Zoom.
calling on Zoom. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, you plug your mic into there and you plug your computer into it, and then use your square view on your computer.
Yeah, I use an older version. I use a Duo Capture EX Roland to plug in
Wow.
my 2 laptops and mic and 2 speakers, and my AC 300.
That's a lot of stuff to get plugged in.
Yeah, works though.
Yep.
I have one of the speaker as a monitor. The other speaker that the audience hears is actually in another room. And so it seems to work. It's all stuff that I had in the house. So I was lucky enough there was somebody that showed me how.
So we got covered Bluetooth, MAs, micros. I don't know of any other ways that they use equipment for calling.
I don't know. I'm kind of new at it.
How about you, Richard? What do you use?
Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
okay now? I use a Kusino PA50, and that'll handle up to 10 squares nicely. And with it, I will use to connect my computer to it for the music. I'm using a Bluetooth.
Do you have any trouble with connectivity of keeping the Bluetooth so it doesn't drop out?
I've not had any problem with it dropping out. I picked it up on Amazon. I just put in for Bluetooth and it was like about $12. It's a small unit. It's good for 10 hours of calling before you have to recharge it.
Oh, what kind of speaker are you using?
Cosino. It's a whole built-in amplifier, complete system. I just set it up and I'm basically ready to call.
Is this does this where to go?
Can you spell that in the chat, Richard?
I'll pick that up for you, and
Okay.
I'll have to get that. So the amplifier speakers and everything, it's all one. That's it there.
Wow.
I thought when you said the PA50, I thought, oh, that's just another rebranded one. I'm not even sure who the original brand of this is because there's like 3 or 4 different ones, names on them.
They also go under, I'm trying to think, because they changed the name again recently because a friend of mine bought one. He's been using it for years and he just bought it and bought the new one for a backup.
I've used this. I recognized the panel and I didn't own it, but I used it for doing some DJ stuff. But I at a venue where they have one of these, but I haven't ever used it to call. How does it sound, voice wise?
Voice wise, it sounds good because you have your normal features, bass, treble, and that to set. And I've had good results with it. I had one problem where the power switch went bad, and I called them up and they took care of telling me what to do and sending me. Yeah, I had to buy the part, but they sent me the part. They were good at shipping, and I would highly recommend the unit if you're getting something.
So are you using the Bluetooth isn't built in that, right? You're using an adapter?
What I'm using is a Bluetooth that I just put in Bluetooth for music and bought it off of Amazon. It was around $12. It was $12 for the Bluetooth. It doesn't really have a brand name on the Bluetooth.
Yep.
And I just paired it up to my computer and take the receiver in and plug in to where you put your music input. Then you don't have to run any wires between your computer and this PA system.
Is that like the thing that you're using, John? Is that like that or not?
It's similar. That's not exactly what I'm using.
I think John, yours is built in, isn't it? No,
This one's a Digitech. Oh, I've got Bluetooth built into the amp that I've got behind me. That's a mixer and a powered mixer, so it's got 180 watts of power coming out. But I use that's got Bluetooth built in. But when I'm using the Hilton 75, I've got this little Digitech Bluetooth device. Plus, I had 2 of these. I sold one to Roz. These ones are just a little cheap thing you buy for about $20 at Jaycar. And this one you can actually set as a transmitter or receiver for Bluetooth. And but the Digitech one is just a receiver. So you plug that into the Hilton and you match it up with your computer and away you go. Yes, Daryl, you're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry. What is Bluetooth doing for you? I've never used that.
Bluetooth means that you don't have to have a cord running from like your little iPhone, iPad, you could put this little device on the computer, and your iPad might have, well, I don't know whether the older of iPads have got Bluetooth or not. You can actually send it via Bluetooth to the computer, to the Hilton.
It's
Really?
just wireless. It's just replacing a wire.
Really? Okay. So from my iPod, I could plug that plugs into the iPod then, or into
No,
the,
this
where do you plug
plugs
that?
into the computer.
Pardon?
If your iPod hasn't got Bluetooth, you can buy one of the ones that does transmit and receive. You can switch one over to transmit and the other one to receive. So you put the transmitter one in your iPod and the receive one into the computer. Into
Okay.
the
It's got a way to plug it in.
yeah.
Well,
It's just
Daryl, your
it's just a
iPod is
little
probably
Okay. What was that, Scotty?
your iPod probably already has Bluetooth built in. So
No.
all you really need is you
No.
don't have
No.
Bluetooth in your iPod.
No, I just run a wire from the iPod into the input on the MA150. Anybody knows me knows that I am not technical in any sense. Isn't
But
that
you
right,
might
Craig?
have you might have Bluetooth on your iPad, but maybe don't know it.
I don't
Yeah,
have
I
an
think that might
iPad.
be
I
it.
have an iPod.
iPod. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not into Apple.
Okay.
It doesn't have Bluetooth.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have
One
to
of-
look
one of
into
the-
that. I don't know
one of
why I
the-
would need it, but except to go wireless for, is there a reason to go wireless?
No,
What do you say, Ed?
Go to some place where you've got 3 or 4 or 5 callers all setting up on the table, and you can eliminate. You're at the far end of the table. A Bluetooth connection between the Hilton and you down at the other end of the table would eliminate you having to run wires past everybody's laptop.
You're muted, Ed.
That will also decrease the interference of wires running all over each other on the table, but also
That's
going Bluetooth advantage might be that, the wires don't last forever. The little RCA and the 1/8-inch phone plug jacks, they don't last forever and they break. And as soon as you have wires that go bad at a dance, then you're dead meat. So maybe Bluetooth is a good way to avoid bad wires too.
It could be, maybe, I don't know. I probably haven't called long enough, but I've never had a wire go bad on me, ever.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I haven't. I
I
have
have-
all the time, but that's why I carry like a whole bunch of cheap ones, spares in my bag.
Oh, funny story,
If
Chris.
wire goes bad, I'm just like, yep, screw that. Plug another one in.
Funny
Yep.
story, Chris. Funny story, Chris. Remember our last session? You were saying that you recommended everybody buy an extra USB sound card, have a spare.
A lot of people say that. I don't know that I actually said that, but yeah.
I think it was you that was saying it at our last session.
I could have mentioned it, although I don't follow my own advice.
Well, I went to, after that session, I had a dance that night to call at, and my sound card went out of me. Good thing I had just ordered a new one.
I've never had a sound card go out on me either, because I've never had one. I use wires.
Saying you should have a spare everything.
I guess with the sound card, that's to at least enhance, if not take the place of the sound card in your laptop, right?
Yes.
Good reason not to use a laptop. I'm going to stick with my iPods.
With your iPod, so they do have Bluetooth, because Apple puts Bluetooth in all.
Yeah, if you can plug it in, I can see where it would work. Yes.
You can't buy something Apple doesn't have anything. They won't sell you the thing he's got anymore.
Right,
He
iPods.
Does he have one of them iPods that was one of the first ones back before they even considered Bluetooth?
I'm sure. I've got several of them, and they all work. I'm never going to run out of them. The only thing, if I were tempted to get to use a laptop or something along that order, it would only be for queuing round dances. I don't need it for calling squares. I'm a round dance queuer as well, but I do read the rounds.
I have one of those iPods, and it just died this year. And for the last 2 years, sometimes it would freeze up or something, and then I could smack it because it actually had a spinning metal hard drive in it.
Anybody recognize that?
Mini disc player.
Yes. I used one of those for probably 10, 15 years when they came out. I mean, I was calling 3 dances a day, 6 days a week, and they were all on mini discs. Everything that I've come across has worked very nicely for me. I just have never trusted those computers. Now, I understand that the iPod is nothing but a little computer, but that's why I have a handful of them. I bought enough that I don't have to worry about them going out. Haven't had one go out on me yet. But
Yeah, so Daryl, I'm in the process now of transferring the music I had on my mini discs. I'm taping them back into my laptop through Audacity. So I have it as a electronic MP3 file for my laptop. But I've discovered that back in the day when I recorded them on the mini disc in the first place, some of them are overdriven, and I can hear that now. So I can't use that from the mini disc, but others are fine. And so the ones that are fine, I take and, record again, losing a little bit of, what's it called? Finesse of the music in recording yet again, but it's passable.
yeah, I've got literally hundreds, several hundred that are in iTunes library, and that's where before every dance, I program every dance that I program every class. I program every workshop musically. And I go to iTunes and I put together a playlist, transfer it right onto my iPod, go there. All I have to do is punch one button and it goes from song to song to song, right through the program that I set up.
Is it hard to get music like, okay, a new release comes out? Because I seen somebody ask a question on Facebook about using, not sure if it was an iPad or an iPhone or something, but they said they can get their music that they listen to on it no fine, but they couldn't figure out how to get music for calling that they buy put on there.
It's their MP3s. They're downloading them, aren't they?
I would imagine so. I've never used iPod or Apple.
What I do is I just put them into iTunes, and then I use them to put together my program. I just drag and drop into the playlist, plug in my iPod, transfer it to that, same as you would if you were transferring something to your phone or from your phone to your laptop or whatever. No difference there. I cannot believe I'm saying all of this. I'm sounding technical, aren't I? Wow.
And
Are you impressed? I'm not a technical person, but what things I do know how to do, I do very, very well.
So you would use iTunes to get the music you buy from Riverboat or any of them. You would use iTunes to get it onto your iPad or iPhone.
Yes, I just when I download it, I got this. I don't know what it's called here on screen. Oh, I don't know. It's a thing that comes up that you can pick what drive you want to use and all of that in your computer, right? And that's where the download will go. I find it there. I open iTunes. I drag it from where it was downloaded over into iTunes. It goes automatically into the alphabetical listing. And or I can say, go up to in iTunes and say add file to library, in which case it opens up this thing. You over click on it, select it, and it'll put it over there automatically. It's not rocket science. If it was, I wouldn't be able to do it.
And can you track the songs so they repeat?
So they repeat. I don't do that.
So you loop it. No, say you loop it, you know.
For a hoedown.
Yeah.
No, I always do my own editing and everything. And if I need long hoedown, I typically make hoedowns 15 minutes long anyway, in case I'm using them during a workshop. That's why I say I can put it on that iPod because I'm not going to make any changes to it. I have it at the tempo that I want. I do all of my adjusting that I want to. And that's how I save it in the computer. And that's the way it is in the iTunes library.
It's
So when
very
I
similar to
get
what
it
you
there, it's done. What was that, Chris?
it was very similar to how a lot of people use the mini disc player. They prepare it like you're saying.
Exactly. Except the mini disc player, you would loop it. It had that function to loop it. So I did my editing to where on the mini disc, where it would automatically slam together and wouldn't have to say skip a beat or something like that, because there was a break in the editing. No, I do the same thing. Actually, and Gold Wave is what I use for editing my music. And I put it into the library. When I put it in the library, it's done. It's exactly the way I'm going to want it when I turn it on at a dance. I don't have to worry about it. All I have to worry about is picking the right stuff to put in the playlist when I get there. And I don't always follow that when I get there either. I should, but I don't. No, the one thing about that, just saying that, in a way, it does force me to consider what's going to make a good program. Yeah, I'm not going by the seat of my pants, or I'm not flying wild when I get up on the stage. I actually have a plan for every dance, every workshop, every class. I pick pieces of music for particular reasons when I get up there. It's just not winging it ever. Now, like I say, I might make some changes along the way, but there'll be a reason if I do. I better shut up.
What I do is I make a playlist, but it's more songs than I'm going to use. In other words, I know that I'll need this kind of song, that kind of song, and this other kind of song, and then I definitely want this particular song because I really like that one or whatever, thematic maybe or something. And so I have a playlist in Square View for that dance, but it's got multiple options, right? If I know I need a song with a certain kind of feel to it or something, maybe I'll put in like 3 of those, and then when I get there, I'll see what the mood strikes as to which one. But I don't have 500 songs that I'm going to pick from. I have a condensed list of this is the subset of music I'm planning on using tonight.
I've got lots of songs.
Yeah.
Hundreds. Actually, I've got thousands. And Steve, he knows.
One time when it's handy to have Bluetooth is when you have to dance and call at the same time. I use a headset mic, And sometimes I've actually got to get down on the floor. If we haven't got the numbers, I've got to get down on the floor and dance while I call. I've made a computer stand on a speaker stand. I've put a board on the top that I've made so that I can put my speaker on it, my computer on it, and I can have that down on the floor. I don't have to get up on stage and down, up and down all the time. If I can control the computer from the floor and Bluetooth it to the Hilton. Very handy when you've got to dance and call at the same time. Anyone with a small club has had times when they've had to do that.
I dance a lot with them on my remote headset that is a wireless headset. And I don't have a stage where I'm at with my local club, so I just turn the laptop around so it faces me out on the floor. But I have to run over there and stop it. You know, I don't have a Bluetooth controller yet to do that.
Yeah, you're talking about like a clicker.
Yeah, is that what you're talking about? Like a clicker thing?
For the music.
Yeah.
Remote control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, that one died really quick, didn't it?
I was trying to think of the name of. I got one to try on those before, but it only works with the Windows software. It doesn't work with SquareView.
Actually, it's really different calling with a headset because John did it one night and then he said, okay, Ros, go and have a go. And I thought, oh, this is going to be hard. I actually found it easier dancing on the floor with a headset.
Well,
So,
I have to tell my dancers when I get in the square with them, I say, okay, you're my corner. Don't you forget that. You're my partner. Don't you forget, because I will. And then we dance along, and then I forget that I hear my own voice coming out of the speaker, but I'm squared up as a side, but I hear the voice coming out of the speaker, and I start doing the calls, and they're like, no, we're sides. Wait, stop. You know.
When I was like a beginner caller, I remember doing some calling from inside the square, and the thing that I remember from that is how much easier it was to see where everybody was and to be able to resolve and everything. It was really weird. You'd think that the top-down view, you know, from the stage would be easier than being, you know, in the weeds, you know, down there and trying to resolve from there. But I remember it was so much easier when you were in the square. It was just like really obvious what to do.
yeah, I found that.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to remember one person because you were it. So that was one less to remember.
Yeah, I didn't have to remember anybody else's corner either, just mine.
Yeah. But I'd be anticipating what my mouth was going to say, and I'd be doing the call before I actually said it to them. And they're like, wait a minute, you have an advantage. You know what you were going to say before we knew.
Anticipation, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I find it easier I call a lot from in the square with my handy capable club because a lot of times we'll be short somebody and I'll end up down there. Seems like about every other class I'm dancing in the square with them and calling. And I do find it easier from in the square than standing back watching everybody else.
Two couples, that's why. You may have heard me at some time say everything is two couples.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that before, Daryl.
Yeah, right.
Not once before, but many times before.
Oh, hello,
And of course-
Stephen. You snuck in.
Yeah.
Of course,
Good
two
to see
couples
you.
is something different to us who are calling Zoom because it really is two couple or maybe one single individual.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
So when Mark was saying it, I mean, when you said it's nothing but two couples, you have to remember when you're down there on the square, you know, in the square calling. For anybody of us who are calling Zoom dancing, it really is two couple dancing, really, really.
Oh.
You know, and so when I get up to call a live dance and making this transition, you know, going to an active Zoom program and an active live dance program, and I forget to say, so I'll start out by saying, pass the ocean, because in Zoom dancing, it's always the heads who are doing it. And so I say, pass the ocean. And my smart aleck dancers stand there and say, well, who would you like to do that? And I say, well, if I forget to tell you, it's my Zoom habits that are strongly ingrained now after 3.5 years. You know, I'll say, just do the heads. It's likely to be the heads, and it doesn't matter if the sides do it anyway. Just do it. Just somebody do it.
I'm surprised that when you do that, they don't all just yell out, heads.
Yeah, no, they don't. But Michael Helgock would stand there and say, who do you want to do that? And I'm like, okay, Michael, you do it. Go ahead. You know,
It would be Michael.
I've called it square through to 4 couples before, and they'll look up and I say, anybody that wants to.
anybody that wants to, right?
And
Well,
the
that's
first
where-
ones in there get to do it.
Yep, that's where I am too. And I forget to tell them transitioning from the Zoom to the real. Yep.
And look, I'd like to say these people that do call Zoom, like Ed, they do a magic job. They really do, because they're calling to one person with 7 invisible people, and they give hints to where you are.
Thanks, Roz.
And
Yeah.
and it's just amazing. If you guys haven't heard a caller call on Zoom, listen to them. Go on and actually listen. They do an amazing job.
The magic thing is that over these 3 years, the Zoom dancers that have kept up with it are really good at it. And I'm calling just about to speed with them. With a little bit of words, like Roz says, I'll say, in your 8 chain through column, you know, touch 1/4. So they know the positioning of the dancers they're facing. So they can do the calls. And then I'll say, your leaders in right hand waves, tally ho, you know, whatever. So I'll give them hints on where they are, but they're dancing to speed. And all my little Zoom screens, every one of them, like at a real dance, everybody turns the same direction at the same time. They turn the corner, or they go straight ahead. I can see that on the Zoom. And then we have the oddballs that go the other way. And of course, that catches my attention immediately, just like at a real dance will. Dancers will catch your eye if they're not going with the flow of the whole floor. So
you're dancing with 2 phantoms?
yeah, sometimes they're dancing with 3. We might have one person on the floor, and then they're dancing with their partner as a head and the other head couple. So they're dancing with 3 phantoms on strict 2 couple. If they're dancing all 8 calls, they're dancing one person with 7 phantoms around them, like Roz said. And with me giving them the formation name, that's depending on them knowing what a, you know, okay, you're in a trade by like column, you know, they better know what that means, because that gives them the facing direction of the dancers where they are. And they're very good at it now. Roz, don't you think? I mean, they dance like they, you know, the ones that have kept up with it are really amazing. Yeah.
My dancing has improved out of sight since I've been doing Zoom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you know exactly where you are. It's helped my calling, because I know I have to know where I am, so I know who I'm going to trade with.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been really good.
So I have a question for you
I'm
guys.
going to have to watch some of that.
Daryl, I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link, Daryl.
Please invite me. I'd love to see that, because I've never seen it. Now, of course, to me, calling 2 couple, you're just calling 2 couple movements. You're not calling to anybody that's not there. I mean, you're not going to do an 8 chain 4.
That's true. But like I said, you're calling 2 couple calls, you know, 4 people. But if the one individual out there can't distinguish whether they're a bell or a bow in the formation, or whether they're a leader or a trailer, and where their flagpole center is. And right, Roz, they have to know where that flagpole center is, where they're working around between their 2 head couples, because otherwise they end up on the other side of square when they get home. When I say, and you're home, if they end up with their backs to me, to the screen, that means they cross the flagpole center. They generally start as number 3 couple. So they're facing me to the screen.
I'd love to see that. I'm not real quick, so it might take me a while to figure out what's going on with it. But if I see it, it'll be easier.
I'll send you a link.
Thank you.
So-
I appreciate that.
From what I've noticed of it, it forces, if the big plus for it is, it forces them to learn where they're at.
It definitely does.
Because
Yeah.
it's usually
If you were to
person
say
or a couple.
pass through, trade by, they would know who's crossing the center of the set.
Well, I tell them specifically it's a trade by like column. So they know that they might be facing in the middle, and yeah, they would pass through. But
How
they
do
also
they-
know that
How do
yeah.
they know if they're facing in the middle? They're back to back with another couple.
because I tell them it's a trade by like column and they're facing the flagpole center of the square right in the middle. So I give them the
If
whole
they're back to
column.
back, either one could be facing the flagpole center, couldn't they?
Well, they're not flat. They're not facing it directly. They're facing it like as if you had a squared set and you have the heads just step ahead. Or let's say a squared set and the heads slide through and then let's see, and the sides trade, let's say in a real square. The heads would know that they're in the middle facing each other in a box of 4. So
You've got
it's
the dancers have to know where they are, and
it's imaginary
callers
dancing.
give hints.
Yeah.
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 So you don't have 2 head couples. You have 1 head couple and 1 side couple. Is that what you're saying?
No, you have 2 head couples. Number 1 and 3 position head couples.
Yeah, and quite often it's one solo dancer or just one couple, and the other head couple are phantoms.
Phantoms. Yeah.
I guess call for a group for the last 3 years, and we are 4 couple, and the only change that we make is for the singing calls. It's non-progressive instead of progressive.
Yeah, so that group she's talking about is a mainstream group that they did the 4 couple regular real dancing type, but in Zoom for single dancers out there. And they have adapted to that. So that group has gotten good at doing all 8 people calls, even if it's only 1 person out there.
Yeah.
It's a good, the Lemonators, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They're really good. They've adapted right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Of
And
dealing
we
with their
don't and we
families.
don't give very many hints at all. We did at the beginning,
Yeah.
but we hardly
I know,
ever
because
give hints.
they're really
Yeah.
good at it now. Yep.
Daryl, I think the answer to your question is that they're just dancing with phantoms, and yeah, they have to keep track of it. And then she occasionally will give them a clue, to help them, see if where they think they are is where they really are. There's another thing, which is if you're doing just straight 4 couple stuff, like just the heads, right, in the middle or whatever. And then if you said heads star through in California twirl, and now you wanted to do a right and left through, a lot of the times the callers will have invented a new call, basically, that means we're adding or subtracting the phantoms to let you know whether or not you're supposed to only think that it's the 4, just the head couple, or whether or not you're supposed to now add phantoms. And so when they're going to add phantoms or delete phantoms, they'll use the word click. So, head star through California twirl, click, now do a right and left through, now pass through, click, centers, touch a quarter, whatever.
Yeah. So I made that
I
up
don't
at
think I'm going to do that.
it's not for everybody, but I made up that click when we started Zoom calling because we needed a way to distinguish for the dancers when they were coming out of the all 8 people calls. And I would say click, let's say a right hand wave. You have a right hand wave. Do something in your right hand waves. And then I'll say click, and that'll mean the heads only are in the center box with just a left hand box. And it's not a center box, it's just a box. Because I'll say click and the extra phantoms will drop away.
Yeah, click is the magic word that means we're switching from 2 couple dancing to 8 person dancing with phantoms.
Yeah, well, it's the other way around. Other way around. Yeah. Anyway, I'll send you a link for that, Daryl. You can come and visit my clubs, my Zoom.
Yeah, I'd love to see some of it.
And
are you the one who made
as a
that
dancer,
I'm sorry, say it again.
Are you the one who made up click?
Yes, I did.
Everybody picked that up, in case you didn't know.
Well, I heard rumors that some didn't want to, and then they decided that it was really adding a level of clarity for the dancers to know when they were only operating in their 2 couple heads, or whether I was expecting them to work with the sides out there somewhere. Yep.
I think
Yeah.
one of the callers used poof, they're gone as well.
Yeah. Anyway,
But as a dancer with Zoom, it really makes you aware of your handholds, especially, and if you've got someone beside you. Because if poof, they're gone, my hand goes beside me, so I know there's no one there at all. So as a dancer, you think of different things to help as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I never
like
say it,
if
but
it's
if
a
I
left-
ever do, if you ever hear me say it's all two couple dancing, it has nothing to do with what you're talking about.
right. That's why I brought the whole thing up. Was two couple to us on Zoom calling means a whole different thing than concentrating on two couples in the square.
If I talk about what you're talking about, I'll say two couple Zoom calling.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So
My main the main thing I got out of the Zoom calling thing was the following suggestion. You know how we have noises, for like track 2, woo woo, and people make other noises, I think that my proposal is that there now be for regular live dances, that there now be a noise that goes with Zoom, and the noise should be everybody shouts out, "You're muted."
yeah, right. This is true.
Actually, when we first went back on the floor, people didn't believe that I was dancing with 7 phantoms on Zoom or 3. So I waited until we needed we had an extra person, and I swapped, and then I put my back to the square, so they knew I couldn't be cheating, and then I danced that way, and they said, "Oh, you really can."
Yep. Yep. So I have a question for you guys on a completely different topic. Can I get off of the Zoom calling for a minute? And that would be, what kind of tables do you all use for your tabletop if you need to raise up your laptop so that you're not peering all the way down onto your table? It's more up to your eye level if you're standing behind a table calling. What kind of tables do you guys use? Or risers or whatever?
A lot of the time, so it depends on the club, and if there's going to be something there that I know is always there that I can use. There's one club that I go to where we dance in a cafeteria, and I found that the exact perfect height for my laptop and stuff is milk crates, and they have piles and piles of milk crates in the cafeteria back there. So I come out and make a little desk out of milk crates when I'm there. But if I'm just at some random place, the most common thing I use is I have a suitcase that I carry around all my equipment in. It's got the small, it's got the Hilton lunchbox speaker and all the cables and all that crap. And it's just a suitcase. And so I just set that on top of the desk, and I use the back of it. And because that's a nice, I used to have all these fancy folding and collapsing and whatever tables, and I just gave up on that. I'm just like, I just flip the damn suitcase upside down and use that as a table. It works. The other one classically is if you have Hilton's speakers in the Hilton carrying case with the nice, the nice cardboard case, that's actually also about the right height. So you can set that up on the table, and it's nice and pretty blue and everything.
Yeah, I recently went the route of all the folding up table things, Chris. The one that has the little button that you push, and then it's like a circle, and you just click it until you get the spot. So it doesn't move from that spot. It's not little bolts or things that come loose. And then
I got one of those. It's I think it was actually designed as a camp stool, a portable thing to sit on when you're out camping, and you can make it whatever height you want.
Oh.
But it's a circular collapsible dealing. Yeah, I got one of those.
I know a lot of callers that they bring a folding step stool, and put their laptop on that.
Oh wow. Okay.
I have one of those too.
Yeah, what Scotty has is what I have. So Yolanda, what is that one?
So this one folds up.
Yeah.
Right. And I can adjust the leg length depending on and it actually has a little, if you wanted to, you could have a glue fan thing. I don't use that part. But Yeah, it's very convenient.
But does that fit in a knapsack, you know, like a backpack for you to travel with your computer and stuff and go around?
Well, actually, what I did is I just kept the box because it had a nice convenient little handle on it. So I use
I
that
see.
instead.
So you end up traveling. See, I'm trying to make sure I can travel when I call on the road to take my laptop and stuff that I need for calling, plus my little riser table. But the riser table is longer than my backpack at this point. So
Right, yes. I
Yeah.
haven't found anything yet that,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I
And-
could have a backpack where it sort of sticks out, I guess, but
that's
I
that's
haven't-
not too good on airplanes. They won't
no,
like that.
no. So that's about as close.
Yeah. So short of using the milk crates and things that you just find laying around in the room that you happen to be in. Yeah.
Some
I
callers
actually
take,
a table from Costco, which is a foldable table, but it has legs that run up probably about 8 inches, 9 inches taller than a regular table. And that makes a lot of difference as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, and on that table, I just put a power board underneath it. So I've just got one cable coming in. I've got plenty of places to plug in any extra equipment that I need to put
Okay.
in. And that makes a lot of difference, just having that extra little bit of height
Yeah.
above normal table height. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people do the step stools, and those are really cheap. And you know, you can get them at any hardware store, any department store at all, super cheap, and just, you know, flip up.
That's what I've seen a lot of.
I see. Yeah.
What
That
Chris
might
has.
fit. Hey, Chris, that
That'll
might fit in
fit.
my backpack. Yeah.
They fold up pretty small.
Yeah.
And then that circular thing I got, what did I do with it? The camp seat thing is like this, and it comes, you know, it folds
Oh,
up.
I see.
That's pretty small too.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
some
Cool.
callers in Australia use the little hand luggage for all their equipment and they just cart that around. So like the plain hand luggage that you use.
Oh,
With the
yeah, like a
extendable handle.
yeah, like a carry-on suitcase kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and they put all their equipment in there and that gives plenty of room for it and it's all packed and they don't have to cart, they just drag it. Yep.
Okay, Mark, I'm copying that link that you sent out there onto my somewhere
Yeah,
else I can.
a caller buddy of mine has that one, and I've seen it and I liked it, and that's the one I plan on getting. I like
Okay.
it because it's smaller. It's actually smaller than my laptop, and you can fold it up and have your laptop in it, and then get it into your laptop bag.
Oh, cool. All right, I'm
Oh,
looking at that.
wow.
That's what you posted right there on the link in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. Thanks.
Did anybody click on that link I put in there a while back?
Yes, I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's just a little Chris Stacy humor there.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right.
That was definitely an old one.
Yeah. It's a Daryl, it's a Clinton.
You're muted, Daryl.
I know, I sat and looked at it till. Yeah, well, I was sitting here not saying anything for the obvious reason that I don't use a computer or have any reason to. Mine's only that big and I've got it Velcroed to the top of my MA150.
Mm,
That's my computer.
that's
I
a good
don't
idea.
I only look at it long enough to pick my tune.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, mine's up here.
I like the idea of the milk carton that if you know you're going to call somewhere, you can say, can you provide one? You just, that you wouldn't have to take anything with you that way.
Yeah, I just lucked out. Usually, you know, I call at the same, places a lot. And so, I'm always looking around for like another thing I do is there's one place like I'm gonna go there Tuesday, and they And what I'll do is I take the they give me a a table, and I put my junk and my suitcase and whatever I'm going to put on there. And but they also have in that room a lectern, a podium, like a full size, the big heavy ones that are on wheels, a big blocky podium thing. And so I roll that thing over, and I use it to set the I take the lunchbox speaker and I put it up on the top of that, so I get some extra height for the sound, which it would be okay without it. In that particular group, it's very small and whatever. I could just put the lunchbox on the table, but I think it sounds a little bit better. Every little bit helps. So I steal the podium and stick it up on there, and the podium's on wheels, so I can adjust this, point the speaker just how I want it and everything. So, but I'm always improvising.
Yeah.
We've gone quiet. I've been working on your homework, Daryl.
Which one?
The one of going from the corner box to the right-hand lady box in sequence.
Okay.
So I've got 15 so far, but I haven't checked them. And one of them I think I'm a bit sus on. So, but it makes you think of the different ways.
Oh, when I call it lambda squares, what I actually use is they have a very lightweight lectern.
Yeah, the
thing.
music stand, right?
Yeah, it's it's not that little flimsy black
Okay.
music stand for the musicians. I think it's a lectern for maybe that they have a sermon in there or something.
Yeah.
And but it's a very lightweight. It's not like the big heavy blocky giant thing. It's anyway. But that's adjustable. And so when I'm over there, I set the laptop on that thing. That works out real good.
I'll have to look at that. Where is it in the room? Do you remember?
It's just in there somewhere. I don't think they hide it.
I'll have to look for that next time I'm down there.
Yeah, it's real handy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I like your background picture, Ed.
Yeah, thanks. Northern Lights over Niagara Falls, actually. Yeah. Cool.
Over Niagara Falls, so they get them there occasionally.
Occasionally.
Okay. Apparently we get them in Victor Harbour, where we live, or Southern Lights.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a website you can go on and it tells you what time to go out and everything. So didn't think we would from here.
Mark? I think he's gone.
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
He's hiding.
Last week you were saying that I was heading up something, in charge of it or something. I am not, but I was put on, excuse me, as an advisor on the new caller committee.
Yep, that was it.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Just
they thought you were the director or something, I think.
Yeah, that's what they thought. No, just an advisor. And I don't know anything about laptops. I probably shouldn't be there advising.
So did you ever get I know you ordered the audio interface and that. Did you ever get that set up where you could?
Yeah, my Focusrite, I finally decided to try the obvious. Of course, I have right input, left input. I just put a union type cable in those and plug my microphone right in there, and that took care of the problem. It took me where I wanted to go with it anyway. The main thing I wanted to do, not so much for doing it on Zoom, but when I put together PowerPoints for the new callers, and I want to have a chance to vocalize with music, and do a recording of the PowerPoint. That's where I'm going to use it most. I'll probably wind up using some of my online workshops with the new colors that I have as well, to demonstrate how to match voice to music and what have you like that. It's going to come in handy. I have not done that yet, but working with it a little bit, I'll probably wind up doing that. Well, there you are.
Yep, I was scarfing down some potatoes.
Ah, okay. Now you made me hungry.
God.
Anyway, I think I'm going to sign off for this week. Thanks for putting up with my nonsense and all of that. I'll get out of here and you can talk about me if you want. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.
You too, Daryl. Cheers, mate.
Bye.
I'm going to take off
Bye-bye.
too. I will see you guys again sometime.
Bye.
Have a good one. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, they're gone. Let's talk about
Yeah, Daryl, for not be, I'm not no good with computers. He sure does know a lot about them. You can get, you can go really simple with them, or you can get really complicated with them. And the more complicated you get with them, the more stuff you got to carry around with you from dance to dance.
I think I
I
was
try
one
to
of the
keep it simple. Although, go ahead.
I think I was one of the first ones to use mini disc, because I was using mini disc back in the early 80s, because I had a club where I had to catch a bus to town and carry all my big gear with me. So I had the Roland half rack amp, which was fairly small, and a mini disc and a head microphone, and everything fitted in 2 briefcases. My speakers were 2 little tiny Bose speakers about the size of your hand, and I could call to 5 squares using that, no problem at all.
Well, there's where you had the advantage. You were using Bose speakers.
Yeah.
Anybody
And,
else, any other name brand back in them days wouldn't have worked so well.
Probably not. Yeah, the mini disc that I used was the second one that Sony ever made. It was the so I was getting out fairly quickly, and I was known as the gadget man in Queensland.
I've been thinking lately about using these little home theater or even computer speakers, because the groups are so small. 4 squares tops for most dances that I call, and it's usually like 2 squares. And I mean, sometimes you get bigger ones, but a lot of times you're just doing these little tiny groups. And I've been wondering if some of these little tiny speakers like this big, if they could actually cut it. And I kind of think maybe they could, but has anybody tried any of those kind of things? Because they make sound bars now that are maybe like this big, but they're thin, and then there's things that are like this big, and I have the suspicion that they put out plenty of perfectly good sound for to easily fill up a room that would have 5 squares in it or something.
Well, how would you hook a microphone up to?
Well, these things usually are have I mean, they're an integrated amplifier speaker, so I would just take the output of whatever mixer I'm using and just plug it in.
They have a line in, so you could run a small mixer.
Right. They have that. They also have Bluetooth.
even that little interface that Mark Hart uses for his Zoom calling, you could use that as a microphone mixer.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of. I mean, I got a lot of mixers.
I've never used a sound bar or had one or even really looked at one.
They're pretty bassy though.
Mm.
Ed had to go, did she?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does a really good job with the Zoom.
See, now this was all before I got into square dancing, but I went from 8-track to cassette to CD, and I stuck with CD for my music forever. I kind of skipped right through. I never even looked at the iPods and mini disc players or any of that stuff. I was stuck on CDs for a long, long time.
Well, one of the things that made me go to mini disc was that you could fit them in your pocket. You can't fit a CD in your shirt pocket.
We had the Walkman.
Yeah, I had the Walkman mini disc, the Sony MR2, and basically it did everything that I needed to do, and I could fit 25 songs on, and that's in stereo. I could fit 25 songs on a standard mini disc. Then you got the long play mini disc. You could get about 40 songs on, but the 25 songs was enough to do one session.
Everybody that got into mini discs really loved them. I just didn't like the idea for some reason. I don't know. It never grabbed me. I was on vinyl like forever, and then finally I switched over to, everybody thought I'd be the first one on the computer, Mr. Technology or whatever. Like I was like almost the last person I know that finally got off the vinyl.
So our mini discs, are they like a miniature CD or are they like a hard drive?
They're just a smaller thing than a CD, and the Walkman wasn't any bigger than a cassette tape Walkman.
It's just like a CD. It's a read-writable thing. About like they're small.
Yeah, about
The
3
only
inches.
thing is the quality of the sound on a mini disc was much better than a CD, and you found that a lot of the radio announcers prepared all their stuff on mini disc.
Did they ever get
very handy?
Remember they came out for a while there. They had them laser discs. I mean, they were like big giant records.
Yeah, and those were very.
Did they ever get it? And did they ever do those in the square dancing?
Those things are not portable, and they're unbelievably sensitive to dust and vibration and every other thing you could think of. I doubt anybody ever tried that, because I mean they barely worked when they were at home.
I know my dad always wanted to get one of them, but I don't think he ever did.
Yeah, they had a great amount of geek appeal to them, and they just never took off. They weren't around very long.
Yeah, I think I was about like Chris. I went direct from vinyl straight through to the computer.
It must have been a real pain carting the records around though with you, because they're so bulky.
Records.
Records, yeah, carting records. You must have built up muscles. You must be really strong callers.
I got boxes of records.
Well, I've inherited some of Jeff's, and those boxes are heavy.
Yes.
Well, the way I've heard most people explain how they did the records was they basically did like Daryl was saying. They planned the night out, and they only took the records that they were going to need for that night with a few extra. They didn't towed all the
Yeah.
records around with them. They planned their night out and they took those records and that was it.
I dragged around a small record case that probably only had 100 records in it.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, like 60 or 100, however many were in there.
And you took them all into the
Well, I've
dance
got
with
one.
you, or did you leave them in the car?
I took, oh, well, I wouldn't leave them unattended in the car. I'm in and out every time because too many friends of mine left records in the car. And especially, it's always going to be hard to get out of print record. And, you come back out and it's just a melted.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yep.
I didn't think of that.
The big advantage to me of vinyl, besides not having to carry so much, but I mean the big advantage of switching off of vinyl was the danger of scratching the record and just the normal wear and tear, just playing the thing. And so, because I was always terrified, I had these records that I really liked this, and you can't get it anymore. They're out of print, and but once you digitize them, you're safe.
Yep.
Yep.
You're in the dance hall, you're playing records all the time. There's a hell of an amount of dust that comes up off the floor as dancers are moving, and it gets down in the grooves of those records. No matter what you do, it helps wear them out and your needles.
Yeah. One of the things that I liked when MP3 came out and the music on the computer was with your records. You had you've got your legal, you've got to have the record to be able to use it. And I had some records where you couldn't play them anymore. Now the royalty, the legality of royalty doesn't say that the record has to be playable. So you could have a copy on it as an MP3. You could pick up a copy from a mate, so long as you had the record. You could play it, you could use it.
Even the record's bloody broken, you've still had that original record. That is correct.
That's right. You can prove you bought it.
Yeah.
I've called in some pretty dirty places, outdoors at campgrounds and things like that. And it just, in fields where people are having like, a Girl Scout jamboree or whatever they're doing there. But the worst of all by far is at the what do you call it? It's the horse riding place. A giant enclosed, with 40-foot ceilings barn that goes on for a vast area. It's a gigantic barn, and then they clear it out and they get all the dust, all the horses and stuff out of there, and then they'll have their event in there, including setting up a stage, and it's pretty big. I mean, like a real stage, and everything. But man, the dust that comes off of that, oh my God, my equipment is dirty for weeks, even though I clean it, wiping it down all the time. That stuff gets on there and it sticks. Oh my God.
Sounds like one of them barns they use for like barrel races.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They're like doing dressage and stuff in there.
I know in the outback we've got. Go on.
I can remember doing a demo for a school, and I was given this little table to use and everything, and I had to go away and get a cup of coffee or something, and I was only away for about 5 minutes, and I come back and the records are all buckled because they'd been in the sun, and you don't have that with a computer.
No. Well, in Australia, we get bull dust in the outback, so I guess you wouldn't really want to play out with the bull dust because you never get that out. It's really hard to get out.
I remember one friend of mine had some records get melted, and he tried to smush them back. Well, let's just get them warm again and put a giant stack of books on them and that kind of thing. I don't remember exactly how successful that was, but that was back in the day that was back when we'd be like, oh, I really like this record. I think I'll buy 3 copies.
Yeah. I've had a bit of success by putting them between two pieces of glass, and put two pieces of glass and then weight that down a bit, leave it for 48 hours or something. And I've had a few records that I've recovered that way.
Ah, the good old days.
Mhm.
And the other thing was, you know, I did a lot of challenge calling, and that required written material. And the way that I wrote the material was on large index cards. And so, you know, you go to a dance and, you know, got to have a pile of, you know, gosh, 60 or 100 of those. You know, it's essentially this much of a tree that you're lugging around. That was another thing you don't have to carry around anymore because you can put it on the computer.
Yep.
How do you organize your computer? Because a lot of people do different things for your choreography.
I've often thought about be a good thing for one of these sessions is to everyone to show how they do it, so that everyone can see what other people do.
The answer that I've been going with for a considerable, pretty much ever since I switched over to the computer, so that's, you know, whatever that is, 15 years or something. Is it really that long? 20, yeah, just about. And it's not organized, and that's a big problem. Now, the standard that I've always had for writing material is that you're writing material for a dance, you call it once, and that's it. You're never going to use that again. However, after a long time, I decided that it was okay to reuse material if you're just using it inside of a workshop or, you know, a teaching thing. And they, you know, they just need some practice cards basically. Then I would call the stuff again. And so now you have the problem of not only do you have this giant pile of cards you're not going to use again, but now you're going to use some of them again. And so you got to, you know, figure out how to organize them somehow. And I never really solved that with paper. With the computer, I've been working for some time, and I'd be done, except I can't program as fast as I used to because I can't see what I'm doing. So some software to manage that, because I haven't found any software that really does that. But yeah, I think the right answer is you need some purpose-built software that is for, you know, managing your library of choreography. And so I've actually been working on that. Don't ask me when it'll be done, because Lord knows. But
A good database.
Mm.
Because you only need one copy of each card, and you can get it from all different angles and areas.
right, but you'd like to be able to put in a query that says, I need cards that were use only the calls from the plus list, today's plus list, which might be different than when I wrote the card. I probably wrote, you know, this is a plus card, but it may not be a plus card now, right? It's got cross trail through on it or something, right? Who knows? And so you want to be able to, you know, by level and something that I haven't, that I know that I haven't called, because you want this software to be running while you're at the dance, so you can say this card actually got called, this one guy skipped over, you know. So I mean, each little chunk of choreography you're going to use, you want to not only be able to curate it 6 different ways to Sunday, and be able to index it and find it, but you and put it into you know, virtual piles of cards that are for this dance. But you also want to keep track of when did you actually call it, when and where to who, all of that, so that you can so that if you're going to go back and reusing material, you can do, you know, real nice queries on, you know, quite a few different little criteria that you want for, you know, come up with some junk that's you know, pull it out of the library, but it's got to be this and that and the other thing, and I want it to feature ping pong circulate, but not, and I don't, you know, everything you can think of, you should be able to just construct as simple or complex a query as you want. And it can go back through your entire history of every card you ever wrote and wherever you ever called it every time and whatever, and pull that out. So that's and it's actually the hard part of this software is the database design, figuring out what you want those kind of queries to do, to be, and what are all the use cases, and nailing, and then from that you design the actual databases that are going to be able to support that. And it's taken me a very long time, because this is something I've been mulling over in my head for forever. But earlier in the year, I came up with what I think is final right design, and I started writing some a prototype implementation of it. So something will come out of it eventually, but don't ask me when.
Yeah, I had a Foxbase, which is a bit like DBase too. I was writing in Foxbase, and I wrote one, and it time stamped and date stamped everything that you used. Every time you used a card, it would time and date stamp it. So you could select.
I want the program to also be able to actually, scan the card and figure out what calls are on it. Because mainly because the levels change out from under you. So if you're going back and getting some card you wrote 10 years ago, well, yeah, that was C1 back then, or it was, mainstream back then. But now it's those calls, a bunch of those calls are not, you can't use them anymore because they're on some other list. And of course, the only way you can actually do that, because when you write it, you say this is a plus card on this date and whatever, and you write plus. You put that in the system though, and then you come back 6 years later, and that's not a plus card anymore. So if you say, get me, plus material, it's got to know actually what's on the card, and then it has to have databases that say, at this time, this year, for this Caller Lab list revision, these were the calls that were on that one, and here's the current one, and got to do all that, which is a little bit beyond the that requires some additional database support, but you've also got to have the thing, slurp the cards in and actually record what calls is on there. And another problem I have that some related software is intended to solve, and it has database support for this too, is that I'll often use back in the days with the paper cards, there were no computer programs to help you write choreography. That didn't exist yet. The main one that came out, of course, is Bill Ackerman's SD, and for which I was the very first user, because we worked together at the same place, and he was in the office downstairs, and then his spare time he'd be writing that, and I'd come downstairs and kibitz about it and whatever. So I've been using those programs as long as they existed, but before that, nothing. So now I use those programs a lot, and the problem is that try as the software might to give me a card that is actually the words that I'll speak, it doesn't always do that. I want to word it differently, or I want to rearrange the order of the of some of the, boys do this, girls do that, and then I'll scratch my head and go, it'd be better if the girls started this one first for lots of reasons, and then the boys jumped in here. So you wind up using the computer program. It spits out a file of sequences, and then I go in there, and then I commit the following sin. I edit this file by hand to make it read the way that I want to. And I also get rid of all the stupid messages that say you can't do this at that level, because yeah, that's your opinion, and things like that. And I clean it all up to be, to be the way I want to read it. And then furthermore, I then run it through a program that I wrote that turns it all into hieroglyphics, so that I can read it much more quickly, with all kinds of little my personal abbreviations for that stuff. And so the thing that I wind up with at the end bears you know, possibly little to no resemblance to the thing the computer program spit out in the first place. And why is that a problem? Supposing that I'm calling along and I get down, I'm in the middle of this card and suddenly it doesn't work. It didn't resolve, or the call appears like you can't do it. You know, I fucked something up somewhere along here, and or maybe I just didn't read it right. Who knows? Something went wrong, right? And or the worst one is I have something written there and I don't know what it means. The words that I wrote are a little ambiguous, and I'm thinking, oh, which was I thinking? Because they're very different, right? So, and at that point, you know, I can, well, what I do when I'm calling off a material, if the slightest little thing is out of kilter, I just bail out and just site call immediately to a resolve and, you know, ditch that card. Or if I think it's a good card and I just called it wrong or something, maybe I'll try it again or see how far we get the next time. I don't want the dancers to ever know that that happened. To them, they shouldn't know that I'm reading, and they shouldn't know that I bailed out of reading. It should just be a seamless experience for them. That's my goal. But anyway, the point is, at the end of the day, I might have some cards that were bad, and maybe, you know, maybe there's a bug in the program that helped me write them. Most likely it was a transcription error on my part, or I edited, you know, I botched it when I was hand editing the thing. But I'd like to know, and if possible, I might like to salvage this card. But you see, I've already thrown away the original, and in the process of running the program, it's outputting to a file, and I incrementally go in and change the file as I'm going along and whatever. There's no good trace of the original file. And in fact, the original file never really existed all in one place to begin with. So I'm stuck, right? I can't go back to Bill Ackerman or whoever and say I did this sequence and it didn't work because so that version of the program maybe has some subtle bug, or something was not right, and I didn't catch it when I was using the program. And it's like a calculator. You should make sure that the answer is sane as you're as you're doing it. Don't just believe it, but maybe I didn't catch something, and maybe but you want to understand what happened and go back and do a little autopsy here, and for your benefit and everybody's benefit, in case it's actually a bug that needs fixing. And
clean up the dancers off the floor.
yeah, well, that ship has sailed. But but so another part of this database I designed involves a new workflow where I make sure that by using certain software that I always have a copy preserved of the original thing that the computer spit out. That's the real thing. And so at any time when I'm pulling up these cards, I'm pulling up the thing that I actually want, that I want to read, my edited version of it. But I can always push a button and say, yeah, show me what it really is. Show me what I got this little mess in front of me that I made. Push a button and have it bring up the original unadulterated output from the program. And of course, this doesn't necessarily even need to, if you wrote everything even by hand yourself, it's the same thing applies. You can have various revisions of the thing, but you want to be able to go back and look and see, what was and of course, we have infinite storage now, right? You're never going to run out of space, never going to run out of disk space. So sure, keep every revision of this card that ever existed, keep it around for reference. So that's another of the infinite features that I've been designing in this thing.
Question with SD. When you name your files that you're going to save, your cards, do you just name like in case you've been teaching, do you put the highest number as the first move, so you know that if you're teaching that, you know what I mean? Like if you're doing SSD or something like that.
The normal thing, when you're using these programs, when you're using like SD anyway to author a dance, when you start it up, it wants to know, what's the level, and is there a title for
Yep.
this file, and what's going to be the file name if that's different, and whatever. So there's a little header on each card that says, the version of the software that produced this, and the date you wrote it, and the level, and any other title type information. And then each of these sequences, when you're going along, blah, 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 right and left grand. And then it's like, okay, we're going to write that one out. Do you want to add any little comment to it? And you can say, tricky ping pong circulator, whatever
Okay.
note you want to put on there.
Right, because I have used it, but not for a while. When I changed computers, I could keep the SD, but I couldn't get the SD reader on. And I've had trouble finding SD reader since. So I've actually stopped using it.
Oh, yeah, I've never used SD reader, I don't think. I just use plain old SD. Are we talking about the same thing?
I think so. Wasn't SD reader so you could actually read it? Like,
you mean like it reads it to? Oh, it's just something that presents the file to you.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Somebody mentioned that to me one time, but I don't use it. I actually have some software that I use for reading the files. It's probably very similar, but I wrote a program that lets me read them and
Right.
scroll and skip to the next card and back and forth.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I haven't looked at it since I changed the computers because it wasn't much point. So, So at the moment I've got mine, because we do SSD, I've got like SSD 1, 2, 3, 4, and whatever moves are in those files I know are under that week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, while I'm here, Scotty, have you got any learners that are doing SSD at the moment? You're muted.
I've got a couple. Well, we've got about 3 or 4 up in Kadena that we're working on. Down here, it was just all mainstream on the Thursday morning dance. And right now, just trying to get people wanted. Oh yes, we want to learn, but then I want to come this week, but I don't want to come for the next 4 or 5 weeks because I've got this doing and that doing, and then so I just a waste of time as far as I'm concerned. If you're not interested in committing to it, then I'm not interested in teaching you.
Depends on the person. Depends on the person, because we've got one girl was going away for 3 weeks and she picks up things really easy, and we showed her terminations and we quickly walked through 1 week of moves and we told her the others, and she just did her homework while she was away. So it just depends on the person. So
I've got one couple that basically almost that come down Thursday morning. They're about 2 or 3 moves off of finishing SSD, and then we'll complete it out, round it out afterwards to the mainstream so they can go to conventions and stuff.
Because we've got our birthday coming up.
Yeah.
We've got our birthday coming up, and I'm not sure whether we're going to put SSD in there or not. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. Our lot hopefully are through SSD, not consolidated, but through it by the birthday. And it just depends whether any of our dancers are coming to the birthday too. This is just for programming.
Roz, it's your birthday and it's your club, and you need to be catering to your birthday to your club. Other people come along, they're mainstream dancers, they can always dance at a lower level. That's not a problem. So you need to cater for your club. That's the priority. It's their birthday, not everybody else. They're coming along to celebrate. Visitors are coming to celebrate with you, but you need to be catering for your club.
Yeah, I'll be checking to see what learners are actually coming to the birthday and goes from there. Because if we're not having any of our SSD dancers coming to the birthday, it makes it a different thing. So, but hopefully they are. But if they are, I'll check with you when it's closer, because if we've finished SSD, we can always just call up to week 10 or week 8 or whatever you're up to, and they wouldn't know any different anyway.
That's right. Well, we've got our birthday coming up in Kadina, first weekend in September, or second weekend, I can't remember, the 9th, whatever that is. And
Yeah, on a Tuesday.
so we'll be catering, we'll be doing SSD and we'll be doing mainstream. And we've got one lady she's about on week 2, and I might just do 1 for her or 2 for her, but basically I'll try and blend it all through. And then we've got the Where the Hell Are We dance coming up. That's in October. And once I'll be catering for the people that are doing the SSD as well, because it's a joint deal between Jeff's club and our club. So Frontiers and ourselves. And so once again, I won't worry so much about the lady that's just learned, but it'll be SSD, some of the SSD to keep there. So we give those people that have come down from Kadina, because most of them are coming down from Kadina, and Jeff's mob that come up, and if any of your mob come along, be the same sort of thing. So, and it will be in 2 wells this time.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah,
not
at the club.
The other place, the club was great, except people were complaining about, because they only had that small floor, and so they were dancing on carpet, and some of them were on carpet and all that sort of thing. And the other thing is, it's going to be enough to do both of my birthday and the Where the Hell Are We will be afternoon dances.
Yeah.
So no, that's not, the club really didn't open until about 5 o'clock. So there was that, and being an afternoon dance, so we're not worrying about dinner. I think Yen's planning on putting on a sausage sizzle at the end, but then if people want to go over to the pub for tea before they go home, they can. But at least, like, from anybody, if any of your mob come down, well, I mean, that's still getting them plenty of time to get home at a reasonable hour and not so much in the dark,
Well, that's what we found years ago with our birthday. We changed it to afternoon so that people didn't have to drive back with the kangaroos, the danger of hitting a kangaroo on the way home. So they could come back in daylight, and it proved the best move we did. I mean, as you know, we get 75 dancers to our birthday, and for a small club with 1.5 sets. And I think the only birthday that beats it is really Graham Elliott's in Adelaide. So we get more than the society do. So definitely afternoons made a big difference. And a lot of people, as they get older, don't like driving at night.
Well, that's exactly what we don't really have a lot of young people. And when I say young people, I'm talking about people about 40 to 45 mark. That's young for our people these days. Most of them are in their 60s, and they just don't want it. And that's where, we do our Thursday morning dance, and I'm normally dancing at least 2, generally 3 sets in the morning.
Yeah, good.
These are people that don't want to go out of a night.
Yep.
And so, doing afternoon dances, they'll come along to an afternoon dance, and they don't mind doing a little bit of travelling, especially 2 wells is not that far out of town. And so, they're quite happy to go to that, knowing that they're going to finish about 5 and they'll be home before it's dark. They want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, rather than midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, if you're going to Victor or whatever. And you don't have to stay the night either.
That's right, yeah. And that's the same reason we're doing the one up in Kadina. That'll be an afternoon dance also.
Oh, that's good. Okay.